In 1953, the Central Intelligence Agency began a secret program. Its goal was simple: to discover whether human beings could be programmed, their memories erased, their personalities rewritten, their behavior controlled, without their knowledge or consent. The program was called MKUltra. Over the next decade, the CIA conducted experiments on thousands of unwitting subjects: American and Canadian citizens, hospital patients, prison inmates, mental institution residents, drug addicts. They were given LSD without warning, subjected to electroconvulsive therapy beyond any therapeutic dose, kept awake for days, subjected to sensory deprivation, hypnotized, psychologically broken down and rebuilt according to CIA specifications. At least one person died directly as a result: Frank Olson, a CIA scientist who was secretly dosed with LSD and 9 days later fell from a 13th floor window in New York. The CIA called it suicide. His family called it murder. The case has never been fully resolved. And MKUltra is not the most disturbing thing the CIA has done. It is just the one we know the most about, because most of the files were ordered destroyed in 1973, before Congress could see them. Welcome back to Mysterious History, the channel where the official story is never the whole story. Today we are covering something unusual, a story that is not a mystery in the traditional sense, because the evidence is not missing. It is in the declassified files, available to anyone who wants to read them. The real history of the Central Intelligence Agency, founded in 1947 to gather foreign intelligence and protect American national security. What it actually did in its first decades of operation reads like the darkest possible version of that mission statement. Mind control experiments, assassinations, coups against democratically elected governments, drug trafficking allegations, propaganda operations against American citizens. All of it documented, all of it confirmed, all of it in the files. This is not conspiracy theory. This is declassified history, and it is more disturbing than most people know. The CIA was created by the National Security Act of 1947, signed into law by President Harry Truman. Its official mission was to coordinate foreign intelligence gathering for the United States government, to replace the Wartime Office of Strategic Services with a permanent peacetime intelligence agency. Truman later expressed regret about creating it. In a 1963 newspaper column, he wrote that the CIA had been distorted into something he had never intended, an operational agency that conducted covert actions rather than simply gathering intelligence. The CIA's founding mandate was deliberately vague. It was authorized to perform such other functions and duties related to intelligence affecting the national security as the National Security Council may from time to time direct. That vague clause became the legal justification for almost everything that followed. In its first years, the CIA focused primarily on Europe, countering Soviet influence in the aftermath of World War II, running agents behind the Iron Curtain, funding anti-communist political parties in Italy and France. Standard Cold War intelligence work. But very quickly, the mission expanded into territory that was far harder to justify. The CIA's most consequential early operations were not intelligence-gathering missions. They were coups. The overthrow of democratically elected foreign governments deemed inconvenient to American interests. The first major example was Iran in 1953. Operation Ajax. The democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, had nationalized Iran's oil industry, taking it out of the hands of British and American oil companies. The CIA, working with British intelligence, organized a coup. They paid Iranian military officers. They hired provocateurs to stage riots. They manufactured public disorder. And on August 19, 1953, Mossadegh was overthrown, arrested, and replaced by a government loyal to Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who was loyal to American and British interests. The CIA declassified documents confirming its role in the coup in 2013, 60 years after it happened. The consequences of that coup are still being felt today. The Iranian Revolution of 1979, the hostage crisis, decades of hostility between Iran and the United States, all of it traceable in significant part to a CIA operation in 1953. Guatemala followed in 1954. Operation PBSUCCESS. The democratically elected President Jacobo Arbenz had implemented land reforms that affected the United Fruit Company, an American corporation with significant political connections in Washington. The CIA organized a military coup. Arbenz was overthrown. A military dictatorship was installed. Guatemala descended into a civil war that lasted 36 years. 200,000 people died. The Congo in 1960. Chile in 1973. The list goes on. Each time the pattern was the same. A democratically elected government made a decision that conflicted with American corporate or strategic interests. The CIA organized its removal, and the consequences for the populations of those countries were catastrophic. If the coups represent the CIA's most consequential crimes against foreign populations, MKUltra represents its most intimate crimes against its own citizens. Project MKUltra was formally approved in 1953 by CIA Director Allen Dulles. Its stated goal was to develop techniques for mind control and behavior modification, driven in part by fears that the Soviet Union and China were developing similar capabilities. The program ran for over a decade. It involved over 150 research projects at universities, hospitals, prisons, and other institutions across the United States and Canada. Many of the researchers conducting the experiments did not know they were working for the CIA. The agency funneled money through front organizations and foundations to maintain deniability. The experiments were extraordinary in their scope and their brutality. Dr. Ewen Cameron at McGill University in Montreal received CIA funding for experiments he called psychic driving. He would keep patients in drug-induced sleep for weeks at a time, play recorded messages on a loop hundreds of thousands of times, administer massive doses of electroconvulsive therapy. His goal was to erase existing personality and implant new behavioral patterns. His subjects were psychiatric patients who had come to him seeking treatment. They left with destroyed memories, broken personalities, permanent psychological damage. Many never recovered. The Canadian government paid compensation to survivors decades later. In the United States, the story became public in 1975, when a Senate committee, led by Senator Frank Church, investigated CIA abuses. The Church Committee's findings were extraordinary. CIA Director Richard Helms had ordered the MKUltra files destroyed in 1973 when he learned Congress was investigating. Most were gone, but a collection of financial records had been misfiled in a different location. They survived. And from those records, investigators were able to reconstruct the outline of what had happened. The full picture was never recovered because the files were destroyed. The Church Committee also revealed something that shocked the American public in 1975. The CIA had plotted the assassination of at least 8 foreign leaders: Fidel Castro of Cuba, Patrice Lumumba of the Congo, Rafael Trujillo of the Dominican Republic, Ngo Dinh Diem of South Vietnam, Rene Schneider of Chile, and others. The Castro assassination plots were particularly extraordinary in their detail. The CIA worked with American organized crime figures to develop plans to kill Castro. They explored exploding cigars, poisoned wetsuits, a pen designed to inject a lethal substance, a seashell on the ocean floor rigged to explode. Castro survived all of them. He later claimed the CIA had made over 600 attempts on his life. The actual number, confirmed in documents, is significantly lower, but the general picture is undeniable. The CIA was in the business of killing foreign leaders. Whether it succeeded in any of its assassination plots, beyond possibly Lumumba and potentially others, remains a matter of historical debate. What is not debated is that the plots existed. They are in the documents. Perhaps the most unsettling CIA program for American citizens is one called Operation Mockingbird. Beginning in the early 1950s, the CIA developed a program to influence domestic and foreign media. They recruited journalists at major American newspapers, wire services, and broadcast networks. Some were paid CIA assets. Others were cooperative contacts who shared information or published stories favorable to CIA interests. At its peak, the program allegedly involved over 400 journalists working directly or indirectly with the CIA, and relationships with major news organizations, including some of the most respected names in American journalism. The Church Committee investigated Mockingbird. CIA Director George H.W. Bush, the future president, told the committee in 1976 that the CIA would no longer pay journalists at American news organizations. He did not say the relationships would end, only that the payments would stop. The full scope of Operation Mockingbird has never been publicly established. The most sensitive documents remain classified, and the question of whether any version of the program continued after 1976 has never been definitively answered. Stepping back from the individual programs, what is striking is the pattern. Every time a significant CIA abuse has been exposed, it has followed the same sequence. The program operates in secret for years. Whistleblowers or investigators begin to uncover evidence. Files are destroyed before they can be examined. Partial disclosure occurs, revealing enough to shock the public. Reforms are announced. And then the cycle begins again. MKUltra files destroyed in 1973. Iran Contra documents shredded in 1986. Enhanced interrogation program details still heavily classified decades later. The CIA's Inspector General report on torture, released in 2014, was 967 pages long. Over 90% of it was redacted geet. The pattern is not of an organization that has learned from its mistakes. It is of an organization that has learned to manage disclosure, to release enough to appear transparent, while keeping the most significant secrets permanently buried. The Central Intelligence Agency was created to protect the United States, to gather intelligence, to keep Americans safe. In pursuit of that mission, it overthrew democracies, experimented on its own citizens, plotted murders, corrupted the press, and destroyed the evidence before anyone could fully account for what it had done. The Church Committee in 1975 called its findings the family jewels, dark secrets that the agency had accumulated over decades. Secrets that, when finally exposed, shocked a nation that believed it understood its own government. The files that survive tell one story. The files that were destroyed tell another. And the files that remain classified, decades after the events they describe, suggest that the story is not yet complete. The official history of the CIA is remarkable. The real history is something else entirely. And the most disturbing conclusion is not what they did. It is how much of it we still do not know. Subscribe to Mysterious History for new mysteries every week. The official story is never the whole story. Coming up next on Mysterious History, we are heading back to where we started. Ancient mysteries, lost civilizations, and a discovery so significant it may rewrite everything we know about human history. Coming soon to Mysterious History.